Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Ali. A little bit about me. I am a chinchilla owner and breeder, and I have been breeding and keeping chinchillas for nearly 30 years. And in this video we are going to go through the basics of chinchilla diet. Now this video might be a little bit contentious because depending on where you live in the world, the care of chinchillas is drastically different. For example, in some Far Eastern countries and also some countries in Europe, it is recommended you give your chinchilla a raw diet. However, I'm going to stick to what is recommended in the United Kingdom, which is where I'm from, and also what is recommended in the US, which is very different to some other countries. Now, I don't know why this is, why there's such a difference between care depending on where you live, and I also think this contributes to why there's such a fuzzy area around how long chinchillas live for. The care is so dramatically different depending on where you live, but for now I'm sticking to what is recommended in the UK and in the US. But before we start, I do want to talk about how sensitive chinchilla's digestive system is. For example, if you change one slight thing in a chinchilla's diet, it can cause them to have diarrhea, it can cause them to have bloating. Even if you're changing from one pellet to another pellet and they're both good pellets, it can cause them to have issues. Their digestive system is that sensitive, so it's really important that you get your diet right, and that is why all reputable breeders will actually give you changeover food when you actually buy a chinchilla from them. So they will actually give you some of their food to put in with your food so that the chinchilla can acclimate and actually become accustomed to your food, and it's not too much of a shock to their system. And if it's a different type of pellet, it can actually cause them to have a massive amount of diarrhea, which is obviously not good for your chinchilla. It can be life-threatening. It can also cause bloat, which also can be life-threatening. So yeah, diet is really super important with chinchillas. So the first thing your chinchilla will need is hay. Now this can be Timothy hay, which is probably the best choice available for your chinchilla because it's nice and coarse and will help grind down those teeth. Or if your chinchilla won't eat Timothy hay, meadow hay will do, or even hay blocks, so compressed hay would suffice for your chinchilla. Obviously we recommend loose hay above all else. Hay is really important for them, so you have to give them access to it 24/7, and this isn't particularly because hay is the most important nutrient that they get, because it's not, it really isn't. It's because it kind of gives them a bit of enrichment in terms of them actually foraging for the bits of hay that they like and the bits of hay that they don't like. It gives them a bit of a boredom breaker, and because it's good for their teeth. By no means is it the most important part of their nutrition in their diet. So just want to make that clear, because some people tend to think that chinchillas are like rabbits and that hay is the most important thing and they can live off hay alone, and that is not the case. With rabbits, yes, rabbits can live off of hay. If you wanted to, you could eliminate pellets completely. With chinchillas, hay is not the place where they get most of their nutrients. Most of their nutrients actually come from their pellets, which is far more important than hay. So I just want to make that distinction right away, because a lot of people think that chinchillas are similar to rabbits in that respect, and they're really not. Okay, next thing you have to offer them is pellets. Now these need to be a good quality pellet. Luckily there are plenty of good quality chinchilla pellets out there on the market. Oxbow are really good. The red bag though, not the green bag. The green bag contains things that they shouldn't have. XL Burgess, very good. Science Selective, very good. Beeper Care Plus chinchilla food is exceptional, although it's very hard to get in the UK because you have to have it kind of imported. It's a bit more pricey as well. But even chinchilla pellets like Pets at Home pellets are generally quite good, and I'm sure it's the same in the US with Petco own brand, and what's the other one? I can't think of what the other one's name is. Basically any home brand chinchilla pellets are normally fairly okay for your chinchilla. So the chinchilla food I'd actually avoid are muesli based chinchilla foods, ones like the Charlie Chinchilla food, which contains a lot of stuff that they shouldn't have. Pellets should not be restricted. They're not rabbits. They don't overeat on pellets. They generally eat what they want and then leave the rest. They don't generally overeat. They don't get overweight from pellets, so it's really important to give them access to pellets 24 hours a day. Free feed your chinchillas wherever possible. Now, does this mean filling up the chinchilla bowls to full? Of course not, because they just won't eat it. Chinchillas generally eat 1 or 2 tablespoons a day, but what you don't want is to feed your chinchilla 1 or 2 tablespoons a day and for the chinchillas to still be hungry and not have access to pellets to eat. Because although hay is very, very important as well, chinchilla pellets are equally as important. They provide most of the nutrition for your chinchilla's diet. So it's really important they have access to something to eat constantly. So the next thing you're going to need is water. Now in the UK, water from the tap is absolutely fine for them. Tap water, completely safe for them. However, in the US, I think there's some debate about whether tap water is safe for them or not, and people tend to filter their water before giving it to their chinchillas. I don't know the ins and outs of why that is, but in the UK certainly tap water is absolutely fine for them. Okay, so that is the basics of chinchilla diets. That's all they need is pellets, hay and water, believe it or not. That will keep them alive and happy and healthy for many, many years if you just continue that routine of chinchilla pellets, hay and water. Your chinchilla will be absolutely fine. But however, I do understand that some people like to give their chinchillas a treat as a way of sometimes bonding with their chinchillas or just to give them a bit of variety. However, you've just got to remember how sensitive their digestive system is and the fact that if you give them treats, it has to be really, really sparingly, so not a lot at all. And it has to be a really, really small quantity, because if you give them a lot of treats, you're going to get a chinchilla with diarrhea or potentially bloat, which are both fairly serious conditions that can lead to death in a chinchilla. So yeah, that's the main thing you have to think about. Okay, regarding treats, avoid fresh anything. Fresh herbs, fresh fruit, fresh veg, anything fresh, do not give it to your chinchilla, because it can cause severe diarrhea for your chinchilla, which you clearly do not want. So I would say avoid dried fruit and dried nuts and seeds, just because these are not particularly healthy for your chinchilla. Now, am I going to sit here and say you give your chinchilla 1 nut, or if you give your chinchilla 1 piece of dried fruit, they're going to die? Of course not. They're not going to die from that. I've seen so many Facebook posts recently telling them that their chinchillas are going to die because they've had 1 raisin in their life. It is silly, but it's not good for them. So we want to avoid unhealthy treats for your chinchilla, so it's much better to choose something that is far more healthy and that they will love equally as much. Now, I do have a whole video on chinchilla treats, and some of which you can actually even grow in your garden, so they're pretty inexpensive to actually produce, and if you grow them in your own garden, you know what's in them. Now, if you want to buy something for your chinchilla from a store, I would avoid pet shop treats, because a lot of them are things like yogurt drops and fruit and seeds and nuts, and these are not good for your chinchilla, especially the yogurt drop one. Don't buy those. Even though they say they're safe for chinchillas, they really are not. If you wanted to buy stuff from the store, I would recommend things like plain shredded wheat, and they love it, and it's fine for them in moderation. Also, things like plain Cheerios in America. Plain Cheerios are fine for chinchillas. If you give them in moderation, it's not going to cause them too many digestive system issues. However, in the UK, Cheerios are not recommended for chinchillas. I think it's because in the UK they've got sugar in them, added sugar, so I don't think they're safe. But certainly in America, plain Cheerios are absolutely fine for them. Now, if you want to get something that's even more healthy, you can go for dried herbs and flowers, like dried marigolds. They love marigolds dried up. Dried dandelion leaves and dried dandelion flowers, they love these. Dried rose petals, they absolutely adore these. They love them. So you can still treat your chinchilla and get a bond going with your chinchilla without having to make an unhealthy choice for your chinchilla. So yeah, that is chinchilla diets, and that is all you need to know about chinchilla diets. It's quite simple and easy once you know what you're allowed to give them and what you're not. And yeah, that's it. It's quite simple once you know the rules. So I hope this video has been helpful, and I shall see you in another video soon. Goodbye for now.